Nicolle, thank you so much for taking the time today. I'm really grateful for you being here, and I'm super excited for our conversation today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I'm just really excited to be here.
So, I think the perfect place to start might be with your mom not boarding a flight. Could you tell that story?
Yes. Oh, this is one of my favorite stories, and it's a story that I was told when I was very young, and it has always stuck with me. And she's going to be thrilled to hear me opening this podcast with this. So, when my mom was young, she was traveling a lot, and on one particular day, she was supposed to take a flight, and she had this intense feeling that she could not board this plane. And I don't remember the details right now if she ended up leaving prior. I think that's what it was. She ended up leaving on an earlier flight. And there was something that happened where she just like knew she had to go. She knew she had to leave sooner and she couldn't take that flight that she was originally scheduled on. And lo and behold, she was watching the news and that flight ended up crashing. And I'm pretty sure that most of the people who were on that flight ended up passing away. And what's so powerful about learning about that and hearing that experience at such a young age, it really kind of set the stage of trusting your intuition and trusting my intuition, and also knowing that we kind of have this ability to connect and to, not predict the future, but to just know kind of where we'll be safe or where we'll be led or where we'll be supported. And I feel like that's been just a through line for me throughout my life, even if it's blind and you have no idea why you're getting this feeling. I always think back to that story and I just trust it no matter what. And it's always led me in the right direction.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So, what came up for me when I heard that was about the difference between like fear and intuition, because
Yeah.
sometimes when I'm on a plane, I'll think for sure like, "Oh, this plane is going down right now." And that's a
Yeah.
very dark thought, and it feels to me like my intuition is saying
Mm.
that.
Hmm.
But how do I differentiate that between a fearful thought versus an intuitive thought?
Yeah. So, for me and the way that I teach intuition is really starting to get familiar with how those thoughts come through and what they sound like for you. For me personally, when I am having a fear or it's a thought that is very kind of like rooted in anxiety, it sounds very different. It comes through very different. Maybe it's loud, maybe it's fast, maybe it, doesn't stop in my mind. There's kind of this like spiraling that happens for me versus my intuition is it's very soft. It's very comforting. It usually comes in from a different side. I kind of feel it differently in my body, and there's never any fear connected to intuition. The outcome might be a little scary, right? Oh, I have to quit my job. But when you get that realization, there isn't fear in the realization, but there might be fear, in, okay, I have to take these steps. I have to move across the country. I'm being guided in these directions. And so, really kind of getting familiar with how they sound, how they feel, how they come through is one of the most powerful things you can do kind of on this journey of intuition, because then you almost have like a marker for yourself where you can identify, no, that's fear. It's loud. It sounds a certain way. It's coming through, in this direction. It has that spiral energy. It's very negative. So I can label that as fear and I can understand, okay, that is not a thought I want to listen to. Maybe it's not even my own thought. And I can kind of center myself back and know that that's not my intuition guiding me in that direction.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I guess it would be also a good place to ask about your own experience where you have this dream job and
Yeah.
you say, okay, well, maybe not. And tell
Mm-hmm.
that story if you could.
Yeah, so I was working a corporate job, and this was kind of after college. I'm someone who likes a lot of things, so I love to explore and learn and try everything I possibly can. And so I was working this corporate job and I knew it wasn't right for me. I felt really stuck. I felt just not like myself anymore. There was a lot going on kind of in my body, my health. And so I had this intuition, this intuitive hit that I needed to quit. So I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to find another job, create this perfect, safe, cozy path for myself. So I interviewed. I found this dream job of mine at the time. It was social media management. It was for a super cool fashion company. I was like, amazing. This is great. I'm going to make a lot of money, all the things. And so I quit my job. the corporate job I had. And I had this other job lined up, and I had this realization, which I now know is intuition, come over me where I knew I couldn't take this next job. But I had just quit my job. So I was like, okay, wait, am I, getting cold feet? Do I feel like maybe I'm not good enough for this job? Like, what's going on? And so I was like, okay, I'm not going to really act on it. I'm going to go to this job. It'll be fine. The night before I was supposed to start that new job, it was so deep in my body that I felt like if I said yes to this job, like something was going to happen to me. Like it was such a deep reaction. And all I can explain it is just like almost as if it made me nauseous to think about if I take this job, what might possibly happen. And again, I didn't know the outcome, right? I didn't have a plan B. I didn't have any other options. And I remember telling my mom, and, my mom was so supportive, but I could kind of, hear that mom thought in the back of her head, like, wait, well, what are you going to do? Like, well, where are you going to go? How are you going to make money? Classic parents. But they supported me. I decided to say no to that job. And I think the important piece of this story is it didn't all work out right away. I didn't find my way for 6 months. And, through that period of time was very crucial for me to kind of start this new journey that I'm on now of spirituality and meditation, because in those 6 months, I was still stuck applying to similar jobs. I was still trying to, create that same path that clearly something was trying to pull me off of. And so while I was in this kind of weird desperation of trying to find a job, unsure how I was even really surviving in those 6 months, it was very difficult, very dark, I started meditating. And one of my friends worked at a meditation studio, and she was like, just come with me. Like, you're not doing anything. Come meditate with me. And I was like, oh, fine. I went and I took her class, and it really kind of started this ripple effect of bringing me to where I am now. I volunteered there because I was like, I finally feel good. Like, I started meditating. I'm like, oh, right. This is what I've been missing. But I couldn't pay for the classes. Like, I didn't have any money coming in. So I was like, let me volunteer. I can take as many classes as I want. And I ended up getting a job there, working there for 4 years. That's where I got all of my certifications. I trained under psychics. I met shamans. Like, I was fully just engulfed in this new world, the world that I was meant to be in. And that would have never happened if I took that next job.
Yeah, it's incredible. And what really highlighted for me was your mom's willingness to accept that.
Yeah.
Where does she get that from other than not boarding a plane and following her own intuition? But like, where does that supportiveness come from?
I feel so grateful every day for my parents. And they, throughout my life, they've just always been very supportive. And, my mom and she's my best friend. I love her dearly. We talk every single day. And I think she just saw, where I was being guided. I think she saw maybe herself in that moment of, maybe there were times in her life where she didn't follow that, but there were also times in her life where she did. And so I think she saw, okay, like I trust her. I trust the universe. I trust that, she has to, and she is me. Like, I have to kind of take these different steps, and I'll figure it out. I'll find my way. And my mom has always been like that with me, kind of supporting me, even if maybe I'm making mistakes or if I'm, taking a route that feels a little bit more difficult. And I think her trust in me has also allowed me to trust myself in those moments too. So I'm very grateful.
What can we do as friends and people who we want to support on our own journeys? Like, how
Yeah.
can we take that energy and apply it to our own lives?
That's a great question. I think as a friend, whether it's a friendship, a relationship, a partnership, just being supportive from a space of just true compassion and understanding. I think so often we try to fix people, or we want to push our own ideas or thoughts of the world on other people. And I think it's so important to just support and to be there and to just allow each and every one of us to go on our path, whatever that path is and however it takes us. And yeah, I keep going back to just support and kind of holding space. And I think, not pushing our ideas on people is just a huge thing. If everyone did that, like, our world would be so much different.
Yeah, one
truly.
thing that comes up for me when you say that is to surrender to what the other
Yeah.
person's beliefs or ideas are.
Yeah.
And then you also talk about you have to surrender, but you also have to take action. How
Mm-hmm.
do you know the right balance between surrendering and taking action?
Ooh, it's $1 million question, isn't it? I think that is a beautiful question of life. And it's kind of the life's journey of how can I surrender and trust while also continuing to walk the path and move forward. This is actually something I'm going through right now is letting go of the how and really allowing myself to just kind of be in the process of taking one foot, one step, and just moving forward. And with that, surrender and trust, it's something that is really difficult for so many people because we love to control. We love to control the outcome, know what's going to happen, have this predictability in our lives. And so when you're surrendering, there is surrendered action. Like there's an ability to be able to continue taking action without necessarily knowing, the grand vision or the grand picture. It's kind of like I'm getting this vision of like taking steps up an invisible staircase and just knowing and trusting that the stairs are going to keep showing up as you keep walking forward. But if you're just standing on one staircase and you aren't taking those steps, they're not going to continue showing up for you. And so that's really where that surrender comes in. Can I just surrender and trust? And this comes back to, trusting in yourself, trusting in the universe, trusting in just like I have this deep trust that no matter what, everything's going to work out as it should. And maybe that looks different than what I think everything working out looks like. And if you can just have kind of that underlying trust throughout your life, I feel like it can really carry you through a lot of difficulty.
Where does that belief come from that everything's going to work out?
I would say my family and growing up, that's very much my mom. Like she used to tell me, this too shall pass. And both of my parents have done just a lot of beautiful work and healing on themselves. And I think that's kind of trickled down to my brother and I. And I've just I've always had that trust. And I've been in some very difficult situations in my life. And even throughout those difficult situations and just being in a lot of danger, quite frankly, I always knew that I was going to be okay. And I think that's something that even now, reflecting back on some of those darker periods of my life, like I was always protected. Like there was always just, it was always going to be okay. And I think too, for anyone who has experienced, trauma or they've gone through anything in their life, it really does kind of, it takes you on a path and it kind of moves you through, where you're supposed to end up or where you're supposed to go in life. And I think looking back, if you just hold on to that belief of, I know everything's going to be okay and I know everything's working out for me, then I feel like we can move through anything that comes up, a challenge, a difficulty, with a little bit more ease. And it helps us kind of get to that other side.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. So one thing you describe yourself as a spiritual mentor, and it's clear just from
Mm-hmm.
hearing you speak in this conversation so far, it's so clear you're so spiritually grounded
Thank you.
in your reality, and it it's like a sprinkle of everything you say is like sprinkled in with some spiritual truth or some spiritual wisdom. It feels like from my perspective, and that's really beautiful. And then another part of you is, you've described yourself as an intuitive healer. And I've heard in other
Mm-hmm.
podcasts you talk about how you don't even know if that's an appropriate title for yourself. But I'm curious from your perspective, what is an intuitive healer?
Yeah. First off, thank you for saying that. It's very sweet. And yeah, it's so funny. This idea of labels has actually been coming up a lot for me recently. I feel like I've been having a lot of conversations about labels and how difficult it is to label ourselves, and it's a very, human of us to do. Put ourselves in these boxes, want to, slap a label on it for a better understanding. But when we talk about intuitive healing, why I've connected with that term is because intuition is just, it's a really positive way of talking about, psychic work or connected work or connecting with spirit and kind of all of these different avenues. I feel like intuition kind of brings it all into just a happy, beautiful package. And so for me, being an intuitive healer, that's really talking about my way of connecting with people, connecting with their energy, connecting with spirit, but also conducting healings through energy work, through sound healing. And so, it's always felt like just it makes sense to me, kind of what that term means and kind of how I step into that role as the intuitive healer. But yeah, I would describe, intuitive healing as just that, connecting with other realms, connecting with intuition, channeling, but also providing a healing and release for people as well.
Yeah, so you just threw so much out there that we could talk about, but one thing you mentioned was about spirit and like connecting
Yeah.
with spirit. What does
hmm
that mean exactly?
So it means exactly what I say, connecting with spirit, right? So what is spirit? Spirit, when I say spirit, I'm connecting with spirit guides, and that's a whole thing we can dig into, but essentially, and I'll make this kind of a quick summary for anyone who is listening and curious. So we all have a spirit team. And what that means is we kind of come into this life with different spirits who are our spirit guides. They can be a collection of angels, of archangels, of ascended masters, of loved ones who have passed, ancestors. There's a whole wide range of, different spirit that we can connect with. And really their role is to guide us, to support us, to love us throughout this life. And so when I'm talking, about how I've always felt supported and like everything was going to be okay, that's because I know I have a spirit team who is doing that with me. They are guiding me. They are sending me messages. They are kind of walking this life with me. And with that knowing that we have this spirit team, I feel like it allows us to just live life a little bit easier, knowing that maybe even if you don't feel the support in a physical realm with, your family members or friends, you always have that team spiritually who can connect with you and support you and love you.
Who is on your spiritual team and how does one connect with their own spiritual team?
So for me, it's interesting you asked that. I actually work with many different spirit guides, and it's funny, I've had a few that have been coming in because my work has been changing a little bit. I've been exploring a little bit of shamanism and kind of getting more into some like earth work, kind of grounding down. I feel like I've been working in like upper realms for a while, and so I'm kind of grounding back down into earth. So I've had actually a few animal spirit guides who have come through recently, through a few of my ancestors who have been coming in. But actually, a big one that I work with is Jesus and Mother Mary.
Wow.
And I remember when they first came through for me, I grew up Jewish, both Jewish and Christian. My family was never really religious, but we celebrated the different traditions, and our parents allowed us to explore anything that we wanted in those religions, which I adored and loved. But so when, Jesus first came through for me, I was like, oh, this is wild and interesting. And, kind of being Jewish, I didn't really have as deep of a connection with him. And one of the first things that he shared with me is that it's not about religion, and it's all about just love and support and guidance. So he actually comes through in a lot of my readings for clients, and he's just a very high vibrational spirit and one that all of us can really connect with. And, even talking about this, none of this is really connected to religion. It's more connected to just we have all of these different spirits and guides that we have access to, and you can call them in and you can really work with whoever you want, which is really fun to start playing with.
Yeah, one of the ideas that was really powerful to me is the idea of like all religions pointing to the same truth
Yeah.
and finding different words. They're all using different words to describe a similar thing. And
Yeah.
I think when I read A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, it was talking about all the same the different he was breaking down different religions and then
Yeah.
saying, okay, like look at how they're all pointing towards love or all pointing towards oneness.
Yeah.
Have you also noticed something similar?
Yeah. It all comes back to love. It all comes back to oneness and really kind of believing in something higher than ourselves. And so, in my practice, it doesn't matter who you are, what you believe in, if you're religious, if you're not, I think having that connection to something higher than ourselves can just really allow us to live life as humans here with a bit more ease and grace. And so, whether it's God that you connect to, the universe, source, it all is really the same at the end of the day. And that's not to say, that there's nothing against religion. And I think each religion is so beautiful. But again, like you're saying, like it does all come back to that love, that oneness, that sense of community and gathering and not feeling so alone.
Yeah. I I felt definitely not alone when we did our session together. It was like a
Yeah.
feeling of like chills. I cried, and like I'd never done any sort of intuitive healing before, never worked with spirits, didn't I had no idea what that entailed at all. I was very interested in meditation, very interested in spirituality, but
Mm-hmm.
working with you, it took it to another level for me of just my own sense of belief and my own feeling of being understood and seen
Yeah.
and guided. And it was just a really powerful experience. So thank you
Mm.
for doing that. Is that like a common reaction that people have or?
Yes, it is. But
Yeah.
it's beautiful. And I love that. And I'm so happy that you felt that way because, you know, this work and talking about spirits and spirit guides and all of this stuff it's not something that everyone really has access to. But it is something we all have access to, but it's something that not everyone explores or
Mm.
knows how to explore or knows where to kind of start, where to begin. And so whenever I have someone work with me for the first time, I always I always receive a lot of feedback around that feeling of just feeling safe,
Mm.
feeling comforted. And so many people come to me really nervous because there's a lot of fear around this work. There's a lot of fear around spirit. There's a lot of fear around just kind of the unknown, right? And so that's why for me, it's so important for my clients to feel that safety, to feel just, wow, I can be here and be supported and connect with my guides and receive messages and clear things out of my body and tap into past lives, like all the crazy fun things that we get to do together in a session. But it just feels so safe and okay. And that's how it should be. And so, we all have these abilities to connect. We all have a spirit team. Like no one is alone in that sense. And so, for me, being able to assist people in making those connections is so powerful.
So you're what happened was you told me to repeat my name 3 times. And then from that you were able to deduce so much. Like how does that work?
Yeah. So I love this. When you repeat your name, essentially we're all energy, right? That's something that I feel like everyone can agree on. We are all energy. We're made up of energy. We're exchanging energy. There's energy just being absorbed, exchanged, moved around. And so when you say your name, essentially what I'm doing is I am calling your energy in. So when you speak your name out loud like that, you're kind of like giving me permission to tap into your energy. So all I'm doing is reading your energy. And of course, I do a lot of things to kind of call in your guides and just like call in more of your spirit beforehand. But once you say your name, that is kind of that permission of, okay, I'm opening up my energy to you. And everything that I do is with my eyes closed. And so I'm kind of how would I describe it? Like visualizing your energy coming into this space, and then from there I can start reading it. And so it's pretty cool. I am still just amazed every single session because I'm human, right? Like sometimes things come through and I'm like, whoa, really? And then I say it and then they're like, oh my gosh, this happened to me, at 8 years old, and wow, how'd you know that? And so even for me, and I think it's important to hear, like I still, battle with my trust and really kind of, okay, like this, I do this every day and I know and I trust that my connection is clear, but some things are just still so incredible that I'm like, wow, this is insane. The fact that we're able to do this work, it blows me away. And so essentially I'm pulling your energy in. We're connecting energetically over the phone. And from there, I really can kind of get a sense of, in your aura, which is the energy field all around you, if there's anything going on there, I'm able to read that space. I'm able to read into your body. A lot of the work that I do in my healings is helping you release old beliefs, subconscious programming. There's a lot of interesting things that we hold on to in the body, but it's all energy, right? And so that's how we're able to connect in this way. And I'm able to do this over the phone without even needing to be with you.
Yeah. Why also did it feel like a weight was lifted after our session? Like, what is that sensation or feeling?
So you were clearing energy. That's essentially the healing. So throughout the session, I am channeling, I'm working with your guides, and we're going in and we're finding different things that are maybe weighing you down. Maybe they're blocking your energetic field. Maybe they are, there's so many things that can get stuck in the body, creating stagnant energy, creating pain even. And so when we release those things, for example, if we released a belief that you have been carrying or a fear that you've been carrying since 8 years old, think about all the time that has been growing and getting wedged into your system. And so when you release that, you're going to feel it. And 9 out of 10 people that I work with feel the actual sensation of things releasing, and they feel lighter after. Because, we can feel our energy. We're just kind of taught to, not connect with ourselves in that way. And when you start to tune into it, you start to become very aware of, oh, this heaviness is connected to this. Oh, I can start to notice I'm carrying a lot of someone's energy. For example, if you walk in a room with someone and maybe someone's in a bad mood, right? You feel it right away. And then maybe you leave, that scenario and you're still carrying their energy. That's something that I guarantee everyone listening has experienced. And so you're experiencing carrying their energy in your body. And if you don't provide a space for that to release and let go, it can get stuck and it can weigh you down as well.
Yeah. In A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle talks about the example of him doing a session with somebody, that
Mm-hmm.
person releasing a bunch of energy, a traumatic situation,
Yeah.
and then him going to a restaurant directly after, and
Mm-hmm.
the person next to him, the table next to him, starts flipping out. And
Yeah.
the waiter's like, "What's going on?" Like, and it was just that the person felt the negative energy that he was carrying from that
Mm.
moment, and
Yeah.
it it allowed the outburst to happen.
Yeah.
And so it leads me to ask, how how far away do you think we are from being able to like quantify this? Or because I feel like it'll
Mm.
be a lot more able, like we can all raise our own vibrations if
Yeah.
we were aware of it, if we could measure it, if I could just be like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I'm operating at a 37 right now. Like,
Yeah.
how much more would we be able to just give other people the benefit of the doubt? So have you thought about anything like that, like measuring the energy frequencies?
Yes. So I have a lot of thoughts about this. I feel like there's a reason why that isn't commonly spread knowledge, because then we could heal ourselves,
Hmm.
right? And so when we talk about things like meditation, meditation has been around for centuries, right? It's been around for so long, but it's taken a really long time to get to the Western world. Why is that? Because it has a really strong impact. And so when we think about these things that take us and give each each individual person the empowerment to heal themselves, to go within, to find their own clarity, to not look outside of themselves, that is power. That's giving each one of us power. And that power can't be controlled, right? And
Wow.
so for me, I think that's really why this hasn't, we don't just all have a tool to check in with our energy and clear things out, because then everyone would be just on a different vibration. And that, bringing all these people together with this raised vibration will make a lot of significant change on the planet. And so I personally feel like there's definitely ways, and I'm sure there's been people who have, created things and thought about this. And for me personally, I'm able to do that, and I teach a lot of my students how to do it. And you can just check in with your energy energetically, just tuning into yourself, and we can even try it right now, actually.
I
Are you
would
down?
love to. Yeah.
Okay. And anyone who's listening, you can try this too. So go ahead and close your eyes. We're just going to tune in with our energy. It's really easy. Don't overthink it. So just close your eyes and maybe take a couple deep breaths in, just breathing in Just getting grounded, dropping into the body, letting go of everything we were just talking about and just reconnecting with your breath here. Good. Now, out in front of you, just out in front of your mind's eye, I want you to visualize a gauge. Visualize a gauge. It can look however you want. Just allow it to appear. And this gauge is going to show us where our energy levels are. So go ahead and ask that gauge to show you where your energy levels are, and notice if a number pops up or if you see the dial moving. And just trust it. Don't overthink it. Good. Getting that number and just noticing it, not judging it. You can come back to the body. You can let go of that gauge and open your eyes. And now you're just more aware of where your energy lies right now. Were you able to do it?
Yeah, that was powerful.
Yeah.
Wow.
I like to do that with some of my students before we go into a deep practice. And you can actually tune in after and see kind of where your energy lies afterwards. And it's pretty incredible. You'll see it move, or you'll get a different number, a higher number.
So when you tune into your own energy, where do you find the most joy or love in your own daily life or daily practice?
That's a great question. I think for me, nature is just, it's everything to me. And spending time in nature, spending time with my family, my fiance, just having those moments of kind of disconnection from the phone, the computer, social media, and even talking about that, that's like our true being. That's our true place of living. And so anytime I can kind of come back to that and play in that space, whether it's, being goofy out in nature, going on a hike and dancing around, whatever it is, I feel like those moments really bring me back to my center. And there's a lot of joy to be had in all of those moments, kind of detached from this modern life that we've created.
Yeah, you talking about that, the first thing that comes to mind is how much more powerful could the podcast be if we were both on a walk together in person, and I just it's like I don't know how to create that in this moment, but maybe I just need to surrender to that thought becoming a reality.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you go about manifesting things? Like, how does that work exactly?
For me, manifestation is very energetic. So yes, of course, I love to, write down manifestations and write down things that I'm calling in. But I really believe that the most powerful manifestation comes back to your energy. And so the way that I like to teach it is really focusing on the energy of whatever it is you want to manifest, whether it's, a new car or a new job or whatever it is. What's the energy underneath it? If you are seeking out a new car or a new job, is it freedom? Is it more time? What is really underneath the material thing? And then really embracing, embodying, and living with that energy right now. Something that I think is just kind of silly with manifestation is people just think it's all about the material thing coming through, but it actually has nothing to do with that. It really has everything to do with the energy. And so let's say, sticking with kind of this like job freedom experience that we're talking about, if you start really feeling that freedom within your life now, if you start really embodying that, taking action from that space, maybe the new job that you were manifesting isn't actually the thing that comes through, but something even bigger and greater comes in that gives you more of that freedom, right? And so I think as a society, we're very materialistic and we're like, we want these things. But if you can really kind of sit back with yourself and think, well, why? Yeah. What's underneath it? What's the energy that I'm seeking? What is truly the thing that I actually want underneath the material item? There's always something. And then focusing in on that and embodying that right now That's how I see manifestations coming in very, very rapidly. And also letting go of the outcome, letting go of the control of it needs to be a black Jeep this year. It has to be brand new. The seats have to have red on them. Like letting go of all those details. And some people will say you need those details to manifest it and to visualize it, which, there's an argument for that. But I think letting go of what it needs to look like and focusing in on the energy of it is how I've seen in my life things really come through a lot quicker.
Yeah, because it's funny in life we think when we have the thing we'll feel a certain way, but often
Mm-hmm.
we can feel a certain way before we even have the thing, and
Yeah.
it's really the feeling we're after, not the thing. And so if you can
Yes.
separate that and cut that off, you can actually have so much more joy or so much more surprise or so much more excitement or adventure,
Yeah.
whatever it is. You can have that in this moment if you really stop and feel yourself and spend time with yourself. You can have that, right? So like,
Yeah.
could you give us an example in your own life of how that came to be?
Yeah. And before I do that, you're so correct with that. And, we can feel everything right now. Like, why would something create a feeling, but the feeling is created from ourselves and our body, right? So
Yeah.
we can feel it all. You can feel anything that you want to feel, but it's a choice. And a lot of us choose to not feel things, to almost punish ourselves for, not having the thing or not achieving what we want to achieve, whatever it is. But can you just feel that now? You definitely can.
Why do you think we punish ourselves?
I don't know, actually. Like I feel like human nature has these really interesting cycles where we feel that, we need to work hard and we need to push hard, especially in America. There is this like culture of like work hard and do hard and like my fists are up, like, oh, like I gotta do it, and if I don't achieve, if I don't win first place, I'm wrong. I'm not
I'm not
worthy.
worthy.
Yeah, I'm bad. I'm not good enough, right? And so I think it kind of stems back into that a little bit. And this like internal subconscious punishment of, well, I, I can't feel good until I have that thing. But you're worth feeling good right now. Like you are worthy of that. I think we've placed our worth on external things when really we need to find that worth within. And when you can find it within, you can feel that joy no matter how much money you have in your bank, no matter what job you're working. And I think that's really kind of what we're seeing this shift, with times right now. We're starting to place that worth back into us where it belongs versus the external.
Yeah. I the example that comes to mind for me right now is when they
Mm-hmm.
installed American television stations into like a faraway indigenous tribe that's nowhere near America. And what they
Yeah.
found was that young women started to have bulimia and wouldn't eat. And the reason for that, they assume, is because they started to compare their own bodies to the standards that were being presented on TV. And if you
Wow.
think that was in the 90s and the standards that we have in our face are
Yeah.
10 times and fake off, it's like, it's crazy
Yeah.
to think about, just from that perspective of we are it is so easy to compare ourselves to what we see, and there's
Yeah.
so much to see, which can be
So
great.
much.
It can show you potential, it could show you, but it could also be overwhelming, and it could
Mm-hmm.
also harm you if you're not aware and you're not
Yeah.
thinking about that.
Yeah. There's duality in everything, right?
Hmm.
There's so much good that has come with all of the access, but there's also a lot of difficulty and scary things that can happen too. And I think, for generations to come, it's going to be very important to have that awareness. And I think we're already starting to see that a little bit, like with filters and face altering things, like we're really starting to become aware of, okay, I think things have gotten a little too far. And, my hope for, when I have children is that, I can lead by example and show them that, it's okay to be who you are and to, I mean, I'm guilty of comparing myself. We all are, but kind of teaching them, how we can have these healthy examples of people that they can look up to and not filters and things and all of, and I mean, hey, I love filters sometimes, but I feel like it's important to have that balance and to see both sides of things as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So going back to how
Yes.
manifestation has played a role in your life.
Wow. So, I've manifested a lot of interesting things in my life. And I mean, one of the things that is coming through for me is actually my relationship, my partnership. I think it's one of my greatest manifestations in this life. And I went from being in a very toxic, abusive relationship, one that was very dark, and, I started to kind of, I think through that relationship, I think I was always manifesting the partnership that I'm in now.
Mm.
And I'll never forget when I was a little girl, I actually like wrote down, which is so weird and silly, but like I wrote down like my dream guy. Don't know why, don't know where I learned that. And looking back, I don't know if I have the paper still. I'll have to find it somewhere, but it had all the attributes of Jordan, my fiance,
Wow.
now. And so, I think I've always been kind of manifesting this relationship, but going back to, when I was in that very dark relationship and coming out of that and starting to do this work, a lot of my work was around healing and releasing a lot of the trauma from that relationship. And as I created that space, I was never like, I need to find, a man and like a partner and he has to look like this. Like it was more so just like I wanted to create space for a person who supported me and loved me and could show up for me and, help me grow and was creative. Like, again, the energy, right? Like all of the energy underneath, the things that would make me feel safe and supported. And through that came my relationship. And so that's, I think, a good example of, you know, when I was an adult, I didn't write down, he has to look like this and all of these different things, but I focused on how I wanted to feel, and eventually that's where I landed.
When did the relationship appear in in conjunction with the meditation that you were doing?
So it's funny, they actually both kind of like happened very at like the same timeline. Which now looking back makes so much sense. Of course, it was like I started to kind of open myself up, and through that, this relationship came in. So we were friends all throughout college, and we didn't start dating until after. And after college was kind of when, I hit a low point and started to, find myself again. And so the work and kind of him coming into my life more romantically, they came together at the same time. And, even with that though, and for anyone who is in a relationship or seeking a relationship, relationships come through to also assist you in your healing
Mm.
for both good and also, to show you some maybe shadow sides as well. And so for me, I really understood, oh, this relationship is coming in to really help me grow and to help me heal from my past relationship. So it was kind of simultaneously, actually.
Yeah, and when you speak about the 4 years of working as a meditation teacher and 4 years of meditation at the meditation studio and some time as a teacher,
Yeah.
what were some of the most impactful things you did or lessons that you learned from that time?
Oh, I learned a lot. So, in that period of time, I was actually working like directly under the founder, and I was doing everything. We were doing a podcast, I was producing a podcast, I was running all the studios. Like, I was doing a lot of things at once. And I think it was one of the best experiences of my entire life because I got to see, so many sides of a business. And for me now owning my own business, it was really impactful to kind of see the business side and the structure and like how to really own a business and create a successful business. However, on the flip side, I was surrounded by spiritual people all day long, every single day. And that was a really powerful space for me to be in because I felt like I could really be myself and explore who I was. When I first started working there, I was shy and, I wasn't a teacher. Like I wasn't a healer. I wasn't any of this. I was kind of in the shadows and just exploring for myself and working through a lot. And so being surrounded by people who I was able to look up to, who were incredible healers and teachers, it really just allowed me to feel very safe and seen. And it let me open up and start to explore, well, who am I in this world too? And that was really impactful.
It's so funny you describe yourself as shy because that's I mean, I don't know you, but that's one of the, I would never use shy to describe you today.
Yeah.
And so where do you, if you agree with that assessment, where do you think the transition happened exactly?
So I would agree with that, and I was a very different person back then. I mean, I was even a different person 2 years ago, but
Wow,
that's part of growing. I hope that I'm a different person than I was
totally.
2 years ago. And, you know, from my past relationship and a lot of the trauma that I endured, it really weighed down on me a lot. And I was not myself for many, many years. I completely lost who I was, all my passions, kind of just everything in my life. It was very clouded and confused. And I think it kind of made me retract a little bit of my like true essence, my true being, my goofiness. And so, coming back to your question of like, when did that shift? Honestly, I feel like I really truly stepped into myself when we decided to move out of LA to Seattle, which was in the pandemic.
Wow.
And, from that time, that's when my business really took off, when I really kind of found my voice in this space. For so long, I felt like I didn't I didn't know what my voice was. Like I didn't know who I was, even though I was doing healings and readings and I was kind of, acting in this space. I was like finding my way, but I still felt very confused by all of that. And so it wasn't really until I made a leap, I totally changed my environment, and a lot of things really started to change and take shape for me when we did that. And, moving to a different state where you don't really know anyone and, going full time for my business and really kind of being on my own, I think it forced me to come out of my shell and to just show up and be myself. I'll never forget the first time that I showed my face and did like a live on Instagram. And, this is something now I do like every week. Like it's so much fun. I love it. But it was really scary. And I'm sharing this because, I'm not perfect. I haven't always been as comfortable, showing up online. And for anyone who is, trying to chase their passion and show up more, it just takes that first time of showing up. And then I feel like you start to kind of take your mask off and take off the layers and take off the armor, and you can just start to feel safer to be yourself.
It's so funny how you use that analogy, like taking off the armor, because you also have another analogy of like putting up a shield and using that in a
Yeah.
positive direction of like
Mm-hmm.
blocking away the negative energy. Is that like what
Yes.
shields are for? So it's
Yes.
funny that you use the description of like taking off the armor and putting up a shield. And it's like you can use these kind of similar but like in different
Yeah.
ways, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So shields up is what you're referring to. And that is something that I say in the mornings. And so I'm really big on protecting your energy. Everyone here needs to protect their energy. It's so important, whether you're spiritual or not. Protecting and cleansing your energy is just, it's very, very important. We'll get into it. But so shields up is a really simple way that anyone can do that. And so what the shields up is you're essentially creating an energetic shield around your aura that just protects you from any low vibrational energies, any of that absorbent energy. So if you have a conversation with someone, you can feel a bit more protected that you're not going to take on their energy or take on their sadness or anger, whatever it is. And so that was something that I started implementing kind of early on in my journey. And I really started to notice a difference. And it was just two simple words, right? Anyone can do that. And so it's a different shield. And it's funny because the way I envision, shields up is this very like kind of thin iridescent shield around my aura versus like the armor feels very like heavy and metal. But yeah, it's a really great practice.
It's hilarious because my friend Tej Dosa, the first guest ever of this podcast, he
Mm-hmm.
had this great thing where he put a shield around himself to
Yeah.
protect himself from the energy. And it's like he didn't get it from you, you probably didn't get it from him. And like I'm sure
Mm-hmm.
there are many people who have used this for generations and generations.
Yeah.
So it's like
Yeah.
the truth and the wisdom comes through. You mentioned protecting your energy. Like what are other ways other than the shields that we can protect our energy?
Yeah, so shields up is one of the easiest ways, I think, because it's just two words and anyone can say those words in the morning. But there's also other more physical ways. So crystals are a really big way that a lot of people love. And, if you're not into crystals, that's okay. But using protection crystals, like having most of the darker or black crystals are usually have some form of protection in them. They absorb negative energy. And so you can look, and the way that I like to choose crystals is very intuitively. So kind of asking the crystal to, show you which one is meant for you. But black tourmaline, hematite, obsidian, those are all crystals that you can either wear, you can have on you, you can put them in your purse, your pocket, have them on your desk. I have a lot of crystals all over my desk, and they will help to protect your energy. They'll absorb negative energy. They will kind of do a similar thing as shields up, but those are more of like a physical thing that you can do. Something else, there's a lot of different psychic tools that you can work with when it comes to protection, but most of them have that same energy of shielding your space. So our aura, which is kind of this 6-foot all around energetic bubble that we all live in, that's our energy. Like that's our zone, that's our space. And so when we're protecting our energy, you're essentially protecting your aura. And this is one thing that I like to do with my clients is actually painting a line of energy around your aura, again, to kind of create that shield. And so that's something that, I will do in the mornings. I'll do it before and after clients. And they're all very easy, right? It's not rocket science. It's really simple. I feel like anyone can try it and do it. And also, on the flip side of that, cleansing your energy. So as much as you protect, it's also really important to cleanse, which is kind of like what we were talking about earlier. And a practical way to cleanse your energy is actually by using salt. So salt is an incredible, incredible mineral that you can use to cleanse. And so, you can cleanse your crystals with salt. And so why couldn't we cleanse our bodies with salt? And so something I like to do is use like a salt scrub in the shower and kind of scrub off any energy from the day. You can also just do it in the shower without the salt scrub and kind of set the intention that the water will kind of shower away or wash away any energy from your day. But you can also use crystals in that sense as well. So protection, cleansing, two really important things.
I love it. And in terms of the intention that you set, like what do intentions do exactly?
That's a great question. Intentions, again, are energy. And so when you kind of set an intention, let's say, I want to set the intention of the water in my shower to wash away any energy that is not my own. So when you set that intention, it's allowing the water to kind of take that energy on. And even maybe, if you don't fully believe it or you're like, how can this water do this? If you set that intention, if you put that out there, it's going to have that outcome. And so I think that when we talk about intentions, when we talk about all of this, we're not talking from our analytical mind, right? We're not talking about, this logic that we're trying to make sense of energy, everything. It really is coming back to your intuition and your trust and that surrender. And so, if you say, okay, yeah, I'm setting this intention, I'm setting that energy, I'm putting that energy out there, and I'm trusting that it's happening and it's having an effect on me, you will feel a difference because you've put that energy out there.
Yeah, that makes sense. And how much you obviously you grew up in an environment where your parents were very supportive of energy, of intuition, of spirits, all this. But I think that's probably rare if I had to guess in terms of population. So many people might be surrounded by people who don't think in terms of energy or don't think in terms of spirit, don't think in terms of anything like that. So what do you do if you find yourself in a situation where you subscribe to some of these beliefs or these ideas, but the people around you don't?
I think that these ideas and just spirituality in general is becoming more and more understood and also more just normalized. And so I think that comes back to just knowing your worth and knowing that, whatever you choose to believe in, spirituality or anything else for that matter, it's your birthright to be able to choose what you want, and that's why we're so blessed here in America to be able to really be able to do that countrywide, right? And so when it comes to skepticism or just having different beliefs from people, I'm all about just everyone deserves to believe in what they want to. And I think if we can all just hold space for everyone to explore whatever they want, then we'll all be a little bit happier. And, I come across people who, they don't know about spirituality. I mean, I had to, with my fiance's family, like, hello, I'm a medium. I talk to, spirit. And even if they didn't know about it as much previously, they completely accepted me and they love it and they're interested and they want to learn. I think so many people are actually really curious about learning, but we almost place these beliefs that, oh, no one's going to understand me or no one's going to believe me or they're going to think I'm crazy. And then we don't even give ourselves the opportunity to express and try and for other people to start to learn and understand.
Have there been any situations where somebody didn't understand or didn't believe or didn't know what you were talking about, and then through a period of instantly or weeks or months or years, they were like, oh my God, Nicolle, I actually understand what you're talking about now?
Yeah. I think I've been very lucky in my life that pretty much everyone around me has been very accepting. Maybe if they were like, we don't really know what you're doing, but amazing, we still love you kind of vibe. But I have had some instances with family members who have done a session with me, and it's been really incredible and powerful for them. And, maybe they had no idea going into it. And then after they're like, oh, I get it. Oh, I get it. I understand. I'm like, yeah, welcome to my world. And so, I know that that's not the case. And I'm very privileged in that way to be surrounded by very open-minded people. And, even my grandparents, who I'm sure are like, what are you doing? But like they're so proud of me and they're so excited and they ask about, my sessions or things that have happened. And, I've been very pleasantly surprised to see how open people really are, especially when it comes to themselves. And, with mediumship, and mediumship is connecting with loved ones who have passed. I've had many, parents who have come to me and people who you wouldn't really expect, to be into that, but they've lost someone that they loved and they wanted to connect with them and they did. And it was incredible for them. And so I think when we're talking about our own well-being or our own connections or, things for ourselves, people are more open than maybe they lead on to the world.
Yeah, or so often I find people are more open than we think they might be in any given moment, just based
Yeah.
on our own perceptions. But on the topic of connections and synchronicities, it's something that I always,
Mm.
whenever I see them, I always, thank, just like, wow, this is incredible, and take a moment to acknowledge the connection that just happened that is seemingly impossible. It seemingly doesn't make any sense because I'm so appreciative and it makes me wonder so much. So talk a little bit about like what are synchronicities? Why do they appear? What do they show? What do they mean?
Yeah. So first off, good job. That's actually something that I teach a lot of my students in one of my intuition courses, Awaken, is acknowledging the signs, the synchronicities that you receive. When we don't acknowledge, we're kind of showing the universe that we're not paying attention or that we're not, grateful or thankful. And the more that you can acknowledge them, the more that will come through. So, synchronicities, and when we're talking about signs, a lot of people think about angel numbers. These are kind of these moments that happen that really show us that everything is connected, that, there's a lot happening on this planet that is bigger than us. And it almost, whenever I experience a synchronicity or a sign, I always get that feeling of like, ooh, like, yay, like my spirits are listening to me. My guides are here. The universe is working for me. And it brings me that like childlike spark of excitement. And so, synchronicities are just that. They're kind of these small moments where things are just aligning and you're becoming aware of that. I really experience synchronicities when I surrender, when I trust, and also when I make a decision from my intuition. And then it's almost like you receive that feedback of like, okay, you're listening, you're trusting, you're aligning, you're on the right path, all the things. And we're giving you a little thumbs up. We're giving you a little gold star. We're giving you a little golden nugget or breadcrumb to continue doing just that. And so one of the things that I always share is acknowledging them. And so I'm so happy that you do that, because it's so important to acknowledge and to really take a moment to be present with that sign, with that synchronicity, because then it allows you to step back into that trust, to really fully surrender, and to actually see, okay, I am guided. I am on the right path. Things are aligning for me. And I feel like they always show up at the moments that we truly need them the most.
Yeah. What's something other than acknowledging them? Is there anything else we can do to increase the synchronicities we see, or to
Yeah.
experience that type of joy?
Well, there's a lot you can do. So, I mean, this is getting into just starting to work with your spirit guides, right? So, you don't have to know who your spirit guides are. You don't even have to be super, quote unquote, connected or spiritual to be able to connect with your guides and start receiving signs. So, signs are just one of the ways that our guides communicate with us. And so, if you want to experience more, if you want to, know that your spirit guides are with you, or receive more guidance, more, feedback, support from them, all you have to do is start asking. And I think one of the most empowering things when we talk about spirit and spirit guides is all you have to do is start. All you have to do is start communicating, start asking for a sign, start, talking to them. I always share with my students, take them out for coffee. You're building a relationship. And I think when you can think of spirit in that way, instead of a lot of times when it comes to spirit, we get very scared, or we feel like they're going to do something to us, or like, but we are in power. We're the ones with bodies. Like, we're the ones who are here having this experience. They technically can't even really do anything unless we welcome them in, unless we give them permission. And so that's why acknowledging the sign is kind of having that conversation with them, showing them, okay, I'm receiving the sign. It's feeling good. I'm giving you permission kind of subconsciously that you can keep communicating with me. And so starting to talk to them, starting to welcome them in. And if you want more signs, you can simply ask your guides, I would love to receive a sign around, my career path. I would love to receive a sign that, shows me I'm on the right path. I would love to receive, a butterfly to know that you're around me, right? And so it's as simple as that. People make it so complicated, and you can really just start there, and you'll start to notice, maybe you're seeing more numbers. Maybe you're seeing some, butterflies, or whatever your different signs are. And you'll start to notice that they come through as you continue and really start just communicating and bringing them more into your life.
Yeah, I'm getting chills right now because my great grandmother told my grandma and her sister, "Whenever you see a butterfly, that's me." And it's
Oh,
it's it's like almost like she knew a way
mm-hmm.
to communicate, and she felt that she could communicate through a
Yeah.
symbol or an
Mm-hmm.
animal. So
Oh,
it's just
it's
powerful.
beautiful. It is. And so now, every time you see a butterfly, you get that feeling of not being alone. And it brings you joy. It brings you support. It brings you love. And isn't it better to live like that?
Yeah.
Right? Even if you don't believe in it, or even if you're skeptical, like, why not choose something that brings you a little bit of joy? Choose to believe in it.
Wow. Powerful. And also it leads me to think about what are the little things we do throughout our day that we do consistently that can bring us more joy. So I'm just
Yeah.
thinking about right now, like if you walk through a door, could you just take a moment to think of a loved one, or think of something powerful in your own life that brought you power? Like there,
Yeah.
there are little things we do every day. Go to the bathroom, take a shower. If you start to connect thoughts, beliefs, people that bring you excitement or joy, that's another way to feel that every single day and connect that to different people.
Yeah, I love that. It's almost like you're kind of bringing in magic to all of the mundane
Yeah.
things that we have to do.
Yeah.
That's why I love, kind of bringing meditation or bringing energy into the shower, because it's something that everyone does. And, it's a really beautiful space to be able to connect there, and you're alone, you're present, you can't be on your phone in the shower. I don't think, like, that would be interesting and weird, but like, like you're fully present with yourself. And so it's a moment for you to like bring some magic in there and set those intentions, or even ask, connect with a loved one. Just send your great grandma a hello and a thank you and I love you, right? Like
Yeah.
there's so many of these micro moments throughout our day that we can bring a little bit more magic into. And I think with that, it's just choosing that. And from choosing that, choosing to bring in these little micro moments of magic, you can start living a happier life right now, which brings
Yeah.
us back into manifestation, which brings us back into everything feeling more aligned, which brings us back into, getting those synchronicities and those signs.
Yeah. And it's like, why do people have the best ideas in the shower? Is like because they're most tapped in, they're most intuitive, their rational thinking mind is off.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
like we've become so attached to that. But
Mm-hmm.
our best ideas come from the opposite. So like it
Yeah.
really makes you think and wonder.
Yeah. And so there's actually, so shower thoughts are really intuitive downloads. And, there's something that happens when water and metal come together. It's
Mm.
almost this like conductor of energy where spirit can communicate with you more freely. So, of course, yes, you're getting the negative ions from water. You're feeling very relaxed. You're not distracted from your phone. But you're also, it's almost as if a channel opens up and you're just more open to receiving messages. And so you can also see this maybe when you're washing dishes. Again, that metal and water is there. You're kind of doing a repeated thing where when we do things too that are repeated, like chopping carrots or, washing dishes, where we're kind of out of that analytical mind, that's when we're opening ourselves up to that intuition. And so, shower thoughts are real. And I'm sure everyone here has had a shower thought. Like you've had a brilliant idea in the shower. You had to.
Yeah.
And that is you tapping into your intuition. That's you connecting.
Yeah. It's powerful.
Yeah.
I spoke to your fiance about Jordan Tarver, I believe episode 217 about affirmations. And
Mm.
I'm curious for you, are there any particular affirmations you repeat often that bring you power, that bring you joy, that bring you love? Do any come to mind?
Yeah. He is really good with affirmations. Like he's great with affirmations. He actually reminds me to write them down and to journal about them. And it's funny because like we all have our different things, right? And for me, affirmations, they're very intuitive. So the ones that maybe I work with are kind of coming in for a certain, season or healing of my life. But the one that comes to mind, it's a money mantra, and it's I love money, money loves me, I am a money magnet. And that has actually, I learned that from my mom, funny enough. And that's just always been one that I kind of like how it's a song. It's just kind of, it feels really good. It brings me a lot of joy. And it also raises my vibration into one of just ease and effortlessness and trusting in the universe. So even though it's about money, I feel like it's also about just everything in life kind of coming to me with ease.
I love that. I think Jordan shared one very similar, if not the same one. So
Probably.
that's great. I love it.
I
Uh,
love that too.
yeah.
What about you? Do you have one that you like?
I love myself is the one that's
Mm,
been dominant. I write that all the time.
yeah.
It's been very helpful to just help me get back in touch with like, if I love myself, would I do this? If I love myself, would I do
Mm,
that? How would I treat myself? So
yeah.
yeah, I love myself. It's like, why do we do so much of what we do? It's so that we can love ourselves. Like it, to me,
Yeah.
that like gets to the root of everything I'm trying to do. So
Yeah. That is powerful. And so many people walk through their entire lives without ever saying that to themselves.
yeah,
And I think it's really powerful to look yourself in the mirror and say, I love myself. Like,
yeah,
wow, that's
yeah.
empowering. And also having that as kind of this like benchmark for, does doing this match that?
Mm.
Is this new venture, does that align with that core value of I love myself?
Mm.
It kind of gives you a place to always come back to and reflect on and kind of check in with yourself of, ooh, is this aligned or is this not? That's
Yeah.
cool.
What do you do if you're finding yourself? For me, I've had many different situations in my life when I found myself out of alignment. A couple of
Mm,
different like come to mind with jobs and
yeah.
stuff like that. And it took me a while. Like I noticed it and became aware of it, and then it took me a month or 2 months or 3 months to actually do something about it. And in
Yeah.
that 3 month period, I start to deteriorate. I go to habits like gambling and alcohol, and like I
Yeah.
know intellectually, and I know I'm doing the wrong thing, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like I sometimes can't act on that knowledge. And as soon as I
Yeah.
stop the job or get out of that place and go back into alignment, my life starts to flow. Things start to happen. So,
Yeah.
what advice would you give as a spiritual mentor to me if I get back into that place or I go out of alignment? Like how do I better diagnose it, and become aware of it,
Mm-hmm.
and change the actions to become in alignment?
I think it's what we were just talking about, right? Coming back to that idea of I love myself and asking yourself, is this action in alignment with the love I have for me? And if it's not, having the courage to change it. But I think too, time and going through what you just talked about, that out of alignment, each time that happens, we're humans. No one's going to have this perfect life where they're just always in alignment. Like I step out of alignment sometimes too. I'm human. We all are human. And so, but it's about having the tools and having the courage and the bravery to pull yourself back into alignment. I think we can, and I know for me personally, like sometimes self-sabotage is something that like I can't help but do. And I've
Mm.
had those patterns throughout my life of just like, I know this is so wrong, but for some reason, like I can't pull myself out of it. However, with time, with tools, with going through that enough times where I'm like, okay, I can almost see that I'm going down that road earlier than maybe, 5 years ago. And so now I'm like, okay, I'm going to do something different. I'm going to try a meditation. I'm going to pull this energy out of my body. I'm going to work with my bolt. Like I have my toolkit of things that can help pull me back into alignment. And I think it really comes down to that bravery and courage with yourself of, am I going to choose to maybe do the hard thing of pulling myself out in the beginning when I first notice it versus letting myself go through the motions until it gets so bad that I'm like, okay, something needs to stop. But on the flip side of that, sometimes you have to go through that, right? I think everything that we go through in life is a lesson. And if you can see that, if you can see maybe that time where you were out of alignment, where you started going down those bad habits as a lesson, and you really implement that as, okay, I've learned, and now I'm going to reflect back on that and know that I can stop that a few steps further. I think that is so helpful in just helping ourselves grow because life is a journey. I don't think that we ever get to this place where we are just like, yes, like I've made it. Like everything is perfect. Nothing can bother me, right? Like, I mean, maybe if you're a monk and you meditate like for hours on end, but they're still humans. They still have emotions. They still have triggers. Things still come up for them. And so giving ourselves a little bit of grace in that we have to learn, we have to go through this. And also, from a more woo-woo space, maybe there was a contract, maybe there was karma, maybe there were things that you were supposed to go through in that period of time that now you've dusted off and now you're better and now you can move forward from that space.
Yeah, I really like what you were saying about the monk. And
Mm,
I think about the idea of like a monk and me have the same
yeah.
feelings. It's
Yeah.
only that the monk is able to better attack the feeling in a
Mm-hmm.
shorter time horizon. So
Yeah.
it's like the better you get, I guess, at the spiritual work, the shorter the time horizons are of dealing with
Yep.
some of the things that happen.
Yeah.
And it's just like, okay, if you see yourself act out of alignment, can you then, if you notice yourself get back in alignment within the same day, could you give yourself
Mm-hmm.
credit for that if you
Yeah.
previously had done it after months? So
Yeah.
definitely something to keep
And
in mind.
yeah, and it's, the monk has practices
Yeah.
and they always show up. And I think that's something that if we can just continue to show up for ourselves, our
Mm.
practices, the things that make us feel good, the things that better our lives, that time period, that gap between the alignment and misalignment will naturally start to close. And, something that you just shared about like giving ourselves credit, I think like we are so focused on, well, I still was out of alignment. But it's like you got back in a shorter period of time. And how beautiful is that? And how much growth does that show you that you've really attained and experienced? And so I think, too, kind of I don't know, not rewarding yourself for like, oh yeah, I got back in, but like giving yourself that moment to celebrate. I
Yeah.
don't think we celebrate enough in life. I don't think we celebrate the small things, the small wins. We think of celebration as just like a birthday party or some grand thing, but can you celebrate coming back to those micro moments of magic? Can you bring celebration into all of the things that you're achieving throughout your life?
Yeah. So, funny story about this was today I was listening to a podcast of you, and I was doing it outside, and
Mm,
you were doing a meditation on the
yeah.
podcast. And
Hmm.
I do the meditation on the podcast. I open my eyes and I say, wow, those flowers are beautiful. But I realized that I
Oh,
never noticed those flowers before the
yeah.
meditation. And so to celebrate that moment, it was like I was more in a line so I could better celebrate too. Like it was
Yeah.
easier to celebrate when you're in alignment, when you're feeling whole, when you're content, and you're more able to
Hmm.
see all the beauty potentially around you. So
Oh,
thank
I
you for that,
love
and
that.
it was a great lesson that I'm going to take for many years to come. So thank
Oh,
you.
well, thank you. Thank you for sharing that. And I think that really drives the point home of, you know, presence
Mm,
and connection. And when we give ourselves these moments in meditation, whether it's, connecting in a seated meditation, taking a walk outside, which is also a meditation. Meditation can look so different for so many different people. By doing that, it allows us to see the world through, more clear eyes. It allows us to see the trees blooming. It allows us to notice if our plant has a new leaf on it. And it allows us to see, the sparkle in someone's eyes. Like, I feel like there's so much distraction in life. And meditation for me is a tool that really brings me back home. It brings me back in and allows me to connect and start to see all of that magic. Kind of keeping on that topic of magic, it's like there's so much magic around us. And so giving ourselves even 5 minutes of just connection, coming back home to ourselves and our breath can really open up your world in so many ways. And I'm just smiling so big because I'm like, yes, like that's the point of it, right? Like the point is to be able to live a happier, better life where you are noticing the flowers, where you are, smelling the air and it fills your body up and you just feel so good. I I'm just so happy that you experienced that, and I that's my wish for everyone. I want everyone to be able to experience that too.
absolutely. Well, this conversation was me experiencing that. So I'm so grateful for you for coming here. I'm so grateful just to be able to witness your presence and your ability to communicate. And it's a
Thank
real
you.
joy for me. And I really hope people listening got the same level of joy. Is there any final closing words you'd like to leave people with? We've spoken about so much, but is there
Yeah,
anything that
we
comes to
have.
mind?
I think just closing on, those moments of magic. I
Mm,
think there is so much magic around us at all times. And for anyone who has maybe been going through a season of difficulty or a season where they don't feel like their true selves, or they're struggling, or they're trying to, figure out why they're here and what's the purpose of life, all of those questions. And even myself, I feel like I've been going through just big questions like that too. And for anyone who is at that place, just remembering that you can create those moments of magic throughout your day. And even if it's just one thing a day that you shift, that you change, maybe you go outside and you notice the flowers for the first time in a couple months, or maybe you give yourself 5 minutes to breathe and close your eyes and disconnect, or maybe you try, charging your shower and aligning that energy and helping it cleanse yourself. Like, just trying one of those things to create a moment of magic for you and allowing that to just have a really powerful ripple effect, I think can really bring in some hope and some peace for everyone here listening.
beautiful. Nicolle, thank you so much. Where can we send people to connect with you further?
You can connect with me on social media. I'm on Instagram and TikTok at Nicolle Merrilyne. And yeah, I love connecting with everyone. If you have any questions, I know this work is very new to a lot of people. So if anyone has questions, you can always send me a DM. My DMs are open. And I just love meeting new people and just seeing how our journeys can unfold together. So thank you so much for having me, Danny. This has been such a joy. I
Such
appreciate
a
it.
joy. We'll put all those links below, and I'm so grateful for you.
Thank you.